Hi, this is Chris from MotoMinded. Today we're going to go over the features and how to install our new product, the Supermount V2. Fitments are the KTM EXCF and Husqvarna FE bikes, years 2017 and 18. All right, first thing we're going to go over is removal of the OEM mask. So simple, remove the ties to expose most of our work area here. Okay, once we have the mask off, you're going to quickly see one of the benefits we have with the Supermount V2. All this wiring is going to have a home on the mount. And tools needed for this project is a 4mm Allen, 10mm wrench, 8mm socket, and a pair of side cutters to cut off the zip ties. All right, one of the first steps we do is remove and get the flasher relay out of the way. And then we're also going to release these two looms here off to the side. We're going to free up a lot of this wiring to start the process. Next step, we're going to remove the Speedo mount and this wire loom mount with these two 6mm bolts that are, that's where we're going to use our 8mm socket. Once you remove these two 6mm bolts, they are not needed for the reinstall. Next up, we're going to reuse some of the components here for the Speedo mount. Pull this Speedo mount off, leave the rubber grommets where they are. We're going to remove and reinstall these shoulder washers here. Set those aside. Okay, next you're going to take the super mount, you're going to remove all the bolt and nut hardware and the spacers. We're just going to work with the base mount here right now. Depending on how your bike was set up from the dealer, will depend on how many extra zip ties or plugs you need to unplug. In this case, for this install, we've prepped it. We really don't have to remove much more than what you see here, which was the signals, the light, the key switch, and what we shown earlier was the Speedo mount. The mount is going to go in here. We're going to put the main bar switch pod in front of the mount, but the clutch cable goes behind the mount. Kind of get it here. And then we plan to see, here's where the location for the loom is going to be. The triple mounts in these, so we're going to mount to the triple here. And the Speedo now goes on these top mounts, which gets it up and out a bit from the factory position so you can see it a little better. Okay, next we're going to install the wire loom onto the bracket. Grab the baggie with the hardware that's labeled wire loom, and we're going to start with the washer and the stainless steel bolt and our 3D printed washer. The 3D printed washer goes into the back of the wire loom mounting point. Little shoulder goes forward. Take your fender washer and your 6mm bolt, slide it in, and as designed, it's got enough grab to hold it in place while you're working. So the back side of the bracket will go our 6mm stainless steel washer and our 6mm nylock nut. Run this through in the lower position and install and tighten the nut. All right, as we work upward on our mounts, the next one is the screws and the spacers for the triple clamp mount. We include these 3D printed spacers for both the billet and the cast triples on the EXC bikes. Billet will have the step in and it's a little deeper. We have a cast on this EXC bike, so we're going to use the smaller spacer and our 6mm bolts. And right now we're just prepping it by sliding this in and getting it ready. Okay, now we're going to install the speedometer bracket. It goes in the top positions of our super mount. You're going to reintroduce, go dig up the shoulder washers, put them in the front at the grommet. So the shoulder's at the front of that grommet. grab your 6mm bolt, and on the back side of this, grabbing an 8mm washer, put it between the grommet and the bracket, and grab your nut and washer, slide it on the bracket, and install. Now we're going to grab our 4mm Allen, and we're going to install the super mount to the top triple. So the bolts are still there, held in by that spacer that we slipped on earlier. Again, clutch cable gets between the super mount and the triple, and then this large harness goes in front. Okay, now that we have the mount installed, next steps is basically the wire organization. We're going to go over some tips, maybe some techniques and guidance for this, but everybody's going to probably put their own flavor on how they organize this. We're going to show you how, after doing many of these, how we suggest you organize this wiring. Think about the layering and the position of some of these wires, and while you're doing it, turn lock to lock each time before you zip tie a wire to make sure you're not pulling or pinching any of the wires. I'm always conscious too, these wires here, which are the turn signal, the key, and the headlight, they need to be out free for later when you're reinstalling the light on the front of the mask, but also some of the things that need to be farther back in the layers, like this wire here, this one, which is the light for the turn signals. That stuff we want to get back in the layering. After a little time here, I started to get the layering right, get the routing right, each time checking that nothing's pulling or pinching when I go lock to lock on this, all the while keeping the headlight mask components out here in the front. So a little overview of what I've done. Flasher, we've used these holes here on the mount right here in the middle here is a great spot to zip tie the flasher. The main switch pod harness, this big bulky guy, you can see we looped it on itself, zip tied here. This little coupling here is for the starter button. Got it routed down below and a little bit behind here, so it can get behind here and not get in the way and free up some more room. The whole speedometer assembly kept these guys bolted together, kind of off to the side of this big bulky switch, and then zip tied to this position here on the bracket. And then everything coming off the right hand controls back in their home here, routed. This guy here is a nice zip tie point for this wire. You can just see this kind of natural flow that goes around, keeps it organized, and everything's tight here. All right, once we have all the zip ties all clipped and tight, we plug back in all the cables for the mask. And one of my favorite parts of the install is removing the rubber straps. You do not need those anymore. And we're gonna now talk about the hard mount feature of the super mount. So we include 2 mounting points for the mask, and this one's 20mm out from the stock position, and this one's 30, which again frees up a little room, gets the aim better for the LED light. And we're also going to do the last step of the install for the super mount, which is run the zip tie through, tighten that with pliers, clip it off, install your mask, put the pins in down at the bottom, grab the 5mm bolt and the fender washer, and install just like that. And that's it. Go out and ride. Check out our video description for links over to our products. Please follow us on social media for the latest news and product announcements. And if you like our videos, as always, please subscribe.